It wasn't the 6 mountains packed into 138 kilometres that did for Chris Froome on the Vuelta's hardest day. It was the fall over a low log barrier that left him to climb them with a broken foot.
This isn't good. You can see this body language there in the cadence. Normally be spinning a lot more.
Head bowed, it doesn't look good at all for Chris Froome.
Up ahead, Astana took the stage win through Mikel Landa and control of the race overall as Fabio Aru dropped his main rivals. By the time Froome made it to the top of the final climb, riders were already heading back down it to their hotels. Having lost 8 minutes 41, his challenge for the Vuelta was clearly over, although his endless politeness and consideration for others was intact.
I emptied myself just to get to the finish, but and of course my teammates did a great job looking after me today, and it's good to hear that Mikel Nieve was out front and Ian Boswell too, and that also gave me a lot of morale just to keep pushing on.
He didn't know then that he had a broken bone in his foot, although most of us could have made a decent guess from his inability to put any weight on it. When confirmation did finally come, Froome headed straight to the airport, leaving Dave Brailsford to make it official.
Chris went straight to hospital last night and had an initial x-ray, which didn't actually show anything, so our doc took him for an MRI scan this morning, which showed he has got a fracture in his foot, and unfortunately that will be the end of the Vuelta for him. But I mean, quite remarkable really that he finished the stage with a fractured foot, but that shows his tenacity.
Last year's Vuelta was the start of his preparation for this year's Tour. That's a worry, I suppose.
No, well, I think having crashed out of the Tour, I think he missed a chunk in the middle, and then had he not finished the season and gone deep into the season, I think that would have been more of a concern. Whereas this year he's had a fuller season, as it were. But equally, I do think he's got to get himself right and work hard towards the end of the season, so he doesn't lose too much fitness and form going into the off season, and then he drops off again. So you've got to manage that sort of into the depth of the season to make sure you don't lose too much going into the start of the next season. But I'm sure he'll be up for it.
So on finally with the race. Stage 12 is a long lumpy road out of the mountains and out of Andorra down onto the plain for what should be a sprint finish in Lleida. That is, if the remaining sprinters' teams have the legs after yesterday to chase down the day's inevitable break.
Under 12 kilometres to go for the bunch, and we just caught sight of Trek Factory's nominated sprinter for the day, the man for whom they have been doing a tremendous amount of work, Danny van Poppel, with a mechanical or a flat off the back and embarking on a chase back on. But at these speeds, it's not going to be easy. And here is Van Poppel. Let's have a look at what it was now. Wheel change. So front wheel puncture, it looked like for Danny van Poppel, a push from the mechanic. But the chase is something like 57 kilometres an hour at the moment, so he's going to have his work cut out. Yeah,
it'll be big, but as long as he's now where he is, he's quite safe. So his team normally they won't come back for him. They'll kind of wait around the back of the peloton, send a couple of riders. But yeah, I mean, the thankful is that it is a straight road, it is a big road. You can just kind of sit in the cars, and sometimes it actually can be easier as long as you kind of time it right. The hard bit for him will be when he gets to the front of that convoy, then he has to come off the cars and work his way back up to the front of the bunch, and that's where he'll need his team.
So for the time being, his teammates, the team of Trek Factory, who've been doing a lot of work right on the front, will be just sitting fourth, fifth wheel, just a watching brief for them, trying to control the tempo. They know that their sprinter is in trouble at the back and trying to rejoin the bunch, and then, as you say, faced with that Herculean task of getting himself up to the front and positioned. With 10 kilometres remaining and the gap under a minute to the breakaway, this is where it starts to become critical.
And there we can see the Trek riders to the back, these three here. You've got 218 there. Their job will be, and looking behind us, Frank Schleck, who's even dropped back. He's waiting for Van Poppel to come back, and as soon as he gets out of the convoy, because there's no point in them going into the convoy because he can look after himself in there. But once he comes off, he's going to need them to take him back up to the front to his team.
Frank Schleck, and he's declared himself out of contention in GC and will be looking, perhaps if he's feeling strong, to get himself in a break and a stage win. Danny van Poppel continues to try and get back on.
Coming back onto the bunch now, because I think that will be the neutral car that sits behind the peloton. So he'll just be there. He is just coming up behind the red car there at the bottom of the shot, and they see his teammates on the right already anticipating, kind of just getting ready for him to come up, for them to drag him back up to the front of the peloton.
One of his key lead-out men will, of course, be his brother, Boy van Poppel, and they come from a famous Dutch cycling family. father, a prodigious winner on the Grand Tours, and their mother also a very talented cyclist. So the Van Poppels know all about winning bike races. 6.6 kilometres, 44 seconds, as Trek Factory then take it up again. You can see Team Sky just on the right there. They don't really have a man for the sprint, so they're just keeping their man for GC now, who is Mikel Nieve after yesterday's abandon of Chris Froome, safe and at the right side of the race, because, and we've seen it time and time again, as the bunch pass through 7 kilometres to go, in a split second your entire Vuelta or season can come unstuck. A touching of wheel, a crash, and it can all be over. It's been a pattern that dictated really the first week, and mercifully we've seen far fewer crashes over the last couple of days of that kind of significance, as Fabio Aru and the red jersey just moves to the front again, just keeping himself safe.
And they're having to chase really hard there. They've mistimed this slightly, because I don't think they were expecting. I mean, we can see it's going up slightly to the breakaway. So they kind of brought the gap really close about 50-60 k's ago, then just sat a bit too, almost took it a bit too easy, just leaving it there and then thinking they just bring it back when they wanted. And they've kind of, you can see the desperation, how hard they're having to go on the front, because now it's essentially turning into peel-offs. Each team is just going to have to go as hard as it can to bring this back.
Well, we're entering that territory of will they, won't they? 42 seconds now the advantage, with only 5.6 kilometres remaining for this group of 5, still working together. Venter at the front, Bertjan Lindemann in second wheel, Maxime Bouet, a little glance across to the AG2R rider Alexis Goujard to see what he can offer. Goujard then moves to the front with Bouet on his wheel, and Rubiano from Team Colombia follows through as well. Venter just fighting to take up the position at the back of that line. 33 seconds though, so that injection of pace that you saw from Trek Factory seems to have snaffled 10 seconds at least of this advantage in the last kilometre or so.
And these 5 have to just keep working together. They can't play any games. If one of them starts sitting on, it will start to mess up the rotation. It's already a slim chance they'll make it, but it'll be impossible if they start playing around. So that's why you see them almost working as very much like a team time trial.
Under 5 kilometres to go for the 5 as they pass under the banner, and they will know now that the run-in is pretty much flat and straight. A straight line to the finish, so it's perfect for the chase.
They're running, it looks like the teams have run out slightly. Now they're kind of gambling a bit. Giant Alpecin are saving their kind of last riders for the lead out. Trek we don't even see anymore, so it's kind of the GC riders are back up there almost, just holding their positions rather than the sprinters teams. And
now for the first time today at least, we see the organisation of BMC working for Jean-Pierre Drucker. So a number of teams on these big wide roads, and again this is a feature of the Vuelta, the roads allowing several trains to develop.
Yeah, and it's quite safe. They know it's quite straight. Once they get to 3Ks, that would be the objective for the GC teams, because then they just have to stay in a slightly not quite as front, because they know if a crash does happen, then if they're caught up in it, they won't lose time.
Less than 30 seconds now, and the peloton have them in their sights because these roads are straight. Under 4 kilometres for the 5. Who dare not, I should imagine, look over their shoulders. At least I hope for their sakes they don't, because they will see the chase bearing down on them, and you would imagine now that the game is up. They surely can't make a mess of this, the chase, and there are several teams spread out across that wide road. Last time we saw Giant Alpecin taking position on the left, and now they're a little scattered, Giant Alpecin, as Movistar form a little train for Rojas.
It'll be interesting today to see if, it looks like it. I just saw it. So Tom Dumoulin's there, and I wondered whether he was just looking after himself or his GC, or whether he was actually going to be involved in the lead out. But then he saw him have a look over his shoulder, and there were 3 riders behind him. So he's obviously intending on contributing to the lead out again.
Well, they'll need him. He was a key member of Degenkolb's lead out going into this race, and the way he's riding and the way this team operates is it's one for all and all for one. And he will return the favour, because Degenkolb has done a great deal of work for him earlier on in this race, working as a domestique. So that's the way Team Giant Alpecin conduct their affairs, and it's admirable and refreshing. Jaco Venter then at the front of this group of 5. 22 seconds the advantage as they pass under 3 kilometres to go, and still no immediate sign of the catch. But now the discipline appears to be breaking down a little as Alexis Goujard makes the first attack from this group, and Bouet tries to follow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he could obviously sense it was starting. People were starting to hesitate, play around a bit, and he knows that's just going to guarantee loss for everybody. So he had to kind of launch it again and kind of see if it separated it and get everyone back kind of going as deep as they can.
A little bend in the road just hides the peloton from sight for the time being. That wasn't there in the road book, but it is there in tarmac form as BMC go to the front. And there you can see the white jersey just behind a Lotto Jumbo rider, just going out of your picture now, of Tom Dumoulin, who's trying to set things up for Giant Alpecin. Lotto Jumbo, of course, they have a rider up the road, but they also have a sprinter in Tom van Arsbroek, who they rate very highly and who is looking to make his mark on this stage as well. So they've got 2 cards to play. Bert-Jan Lindemann is their first card, though, in this group of 5, in the yellow of Lotto Jumbo, as Alexis Goujard still tries to time trial his way to the finish with 2.1 kilometres remaining and 20 seconds to defend. The road straightens out again as they pass under 2 kilometres to go, and the bunch is bearing down on them, but the gap is still there. 10 seconds, 2 kilometres. It's as simple as that.
It is close. They're going to have to start when you can see how deep BMC rider on the front there is going. I mean, that's DeMarchi, I think, who's just doing his last kamikaze pull, and he'll peel off and leave it, because that's what they're going to have to do now, is each team will just do kind of these kamikaze pulls until the final lead-up begins.
Jakob Venter moving to the front, 16 seconds, 1.7 kilometres, 1.6 kilometres. It's on a knife edge, actually. 18, 19 seconds, if those time gaps are to be believed. It actually appears to be going out, although if they look over their shoulders, they'll see the bunch, and whether that motivates them or dispirits them is up to them. They're not cooperating anymore, they're attacking each other. Goujard then still moving to the front, but Venter is the one to open up a little bit of a gap over the others. Jakob Venter trying to get away from them and make his move into the final kilometre. 1.3 kilometres, and there is Venter up the road, and the other 4 are playing cat and mouse between them. One rider, I think it's Bouet, trying to respond and get across to Venter.
You see the giant trains just moving on the right of the bunch there, so they've kind of kept their noses clean. They've stayed very calm. They're just going to punch it out now, but here we go. I mean, this is what they need to be doing. If these guys want to win, they've got to go. This is it. They can't look behind. It's just got to be complete and utter commitment now to till they're caught or till they make it to the line.
Well, Jakob Venter is a time trialist. It's his speciality, it's his discipline, and Maxime Bouet is approaching him, but he's not managed to close the gap just yet. We're well inside the final kilometre. Venter is burying himself, and the bunch for the time being is nowhere to be seen. These 2, I think, might well have stolen a march, but how close is the chase? You can see now the rest of the breakaway has been swept up as the bunch starts to move through. 500 metres to go for the pair then. Jakob Venter and Maxime Bouet, they switch over to the right-hand side of the road, still with an advantage as the chase is not organised behind them, but now Bouet will know that the game is up. The bunch is beginning to close, they're beginning to swamp it, but where's John Degenkop now? Luca Mesgetz, his lead-out man, looking for the big German sprinter. Degenkop's a little bit boxed in, his 4th wheel, he's got a couple of Lotto Jumbo riders behind him. Degenkop now moving, trying to weave around as Lotto Jumbo hit the front. That's Tom van Arsbroek, there's Daryl Impey from Orica Green Edge, and Danny Van Poppel comes back, but it's between Impey and Van Poppel. I think Van Poppel's going to take the win. He punches his chest in delight, and Degenkop thumps his handlebars in frustration. They were spread out all across the line there, but Danny Van Poppel from Trek Factory, having punctured on the approach, takes the win. Van Poppel then the winner, but that was close in all sorts of ways. The bunch cut it very fine indeed.
You can see here, we have Terpstra on the right, the national champion jersey who's going. The Lotto Jumbo riders, there's Daryl Impey on the wheel, and Degenkop boxed again. You see him getting boxed in. And there's Danny Van Poppel, he's seen Impey and chosen Impey's wheel as the perfect one. But after Degenkop got caught in that boxed-in situation, he lost the acceleration as Daryl Impey went. And you see Van Poppel just gets round Impey. It's an incredible sprint by Impey because he went from a long way out. But yeah, John Degenkop, you can see how furious he is. It's just like he starts kind of banging his handlebars about now, I think, yeah.
Well, it was dramatic stuff. That was a powerful declaration there by Danny Van Poppel, and in the end, quite a handsome winning margin, more than a bike length clear.
There's the result. Even sprints that chaotic have to resolve themselves into a finishing order, and it was Danny Van Poppel from Daryl Impey and Tosh van der Sande. Nicholas Meijs pushed John Degenkop into 5th place. Drucker, Van Arsbroeks, Baralli, Rojas and Duque filled out the top 10.
It was chaos at the end there.
Yeah. It was just everyone for themselves. I tried to wait as long as possible, and yeah, I think I had a good run, but Van Poppel was just a little bit strong at the end. I think he came from behind, so I was left on the front with 300 to go, which was probably a mistake, but I just ended up being there, so I had to wait, bide my time, and disappointed, but close enough.
I don't think John Degenkolb would be that philosophical. After all their work at the front, Giant lost it on the run-in. Luka Mezgec starting his lead out on the right here and looking over his shoulder in vain for Degenkolb, who was way over on the left. And in the absence of a post-stage interview, Degenkolb's body language gave us his verdict, although who or what the handlebar banging was directed at we don't know. Either way, it was another good day for Trek at his expense. Jasper Stuyven beat him on the last sprint stage, and with Stuyven out with a broken wrist, Danny van Poppel did it today.
Danny, 11-12k out, you were at the side of the road, changing a wheel, and then you won. What a dramatic finish it was for you. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, I got a puncture, but it was really slowly, empty. But the team say, don't panic, don't panic. Then they say, don't pull anymore. So we stop, and I came really quick back behind the cars, and there were the teammates waiting for me, and they bring me perfect back. And then Popovic did a great job in the final. I think Degenkolb took the wrong side of the road, so he was blocked. But I took the right one, and I did my sprint really early. But it was, I need to do it, otherwise I came too late.
Now here's another handlebar banging annoyance for John Degenkolb. A stage win today would have gained him another 13 points and given him the lead in the green jersey competition, which as it is stays with Esteban Chaves. Tom Dumoulin held on to the combined jersey as best placed rider across the competitions, and as an intelligent, articulate exponent of his sport, was well placed to talk about the issue of the day, rider safety, on which he thinks his union, the CPA, could be doing more.
Normally they should stand up for us and talk to the organisers and the UCI to solve this problem, but until so far I haven't had the feeling that anything is changing or that anything is happening behind the scenes.
Out front on live television, by contrast, it was clear that the TV bikes were staying so far away from the riders it was almost impossible to see who was in the break. Coincidentally or not, today was the first road stage of the Vuelta without a single reported crash.
Today everything went okay, like almost every other day, but we discussed with the TV that they promised to, the boss of the responsible was there, he promised to talk to his employees, to tell them to keep more distance. Let's say normally it's 5 meters, that they now take 15 meters. And if they miss a shot, that they're not going to be angry or that there's consequences. So safety first there. The organizer has a meeting with all the drivers of the motorbikes and the cars around cycling to tell them one more time, safety first. They're going to do a check for the motor riders who has what experience and what kind of course they did to be in the race. So I'm happy that this started.
After yesterday's minor earthquake, absolutely no change at the top of the standings today. The top 10 were all hidden safely in the main field, which means a second day in the red jersey tomorrow for Fabio Aru, and if it turns out to be as uneventful as this one, he'll be ecstatic.